and today I will be reading to you from Beneath the Surface by Unnamed Untold. And before we get into the chapter, I'm going to read the warnings again. I will be doing this every chapter. The warnings are the following: depression, suicidal thoughts, suicide attempt, anorexia, bulimia, vulgar language. Now, on to Chapter 2, Day 1. I awoke to a rough tongue licking my cheek and faint meows of hunger. I opened an eye to see Hero on my chest trying to wake me up to let me know that she was ready for breakfast. Noticing that I was awake now, she hopped off the bed and started meowing at my bedroom door. I went to open the door when I remembered that Rusha was here. I didn't want him to see my bandaged arms, so I grabbed my jacket. We head downstairs, Hero speeding ahead of me. I walked into the kitchen to find that it had an unfamiliar smell in it. I looked to the stove to see Rusha was cooking something, so I looked over his shoulder to see what it was. It looked like pancakes, but thinner. "What are those?" I asked, startling the larger country. "Ah, America, I did not hear you come down the stairs. I am making blini. It is like American pancake," he told me. "Cool. I am making enough for both of us. I figure if we have to stay together for a month, we might as well try to get along," he told me as he went back to cooking. "That makes sense. Might as well at least try to do what the bosses want," I said as I pulled a can of tuna out of the cabinet. I pulled down 2 small plates and divided the can. From at my feet, 2 cats meowed up at me hungrily as they smelt the fish. I smiled brightly at them. They were so cute. I walked over to the water bowl and placed a plate on either side. Both immediately dove to eat the tasty meal. I pet their backs while they ate, getting 2 loud purrs in response. "Cats do love tuna," I hear Rusha say from the counter. He was preparing our plates now that he was done cooking. "Yeah, a friend of mine once said that you can take the meanest, most aggressive alley cat there is, give them a canned tuna, and they'll be your best friend for as long as they still have the tuna." I laughed. "I would not doubt it," he said with a chuckle. I gave the cats one last pet before joining Rusha. I sat across from him where the other plate was. It was a stack with the unfamiliar food. I cut off a piece of one and took a bite. I was surprised to taste strawberry jam in the middle, but was very pleased with the flavor. I hummed in appreciation as I ate them a little more eagerly. Out of the corner of my eye, I thought I caught a pleased smile on Rusha's face, but it disappeared the moment I looked up. "I take it you are enjoying the food, huh?" he asked. "Yeah, it's not too bad for commie food," I jabbed half-heartedly. He rolled his eyes in response. We quickly finished our meal, him before me because he had less. I cleaned up the kitchen while he went off to do his own thing. Once I was sure he was busy, I walked into my room. I opened the bathroom and knelt before the toilet in front of me. I stuck my fingers as far back as I could to trigger my gag reflex. Within seconds, I was hurling up breakfast. It didn't take long for everything to come back up, and let me tell you, it tasted better going down than it did coming back up. I took a few minutes to recover and stop shaking. Once I felt okay again, I stood up, cleaned up, and left my room. I went to the basement to get cleaning supplies. Even though the house was mostly clean, it still needed a good dusting. Poor Hero hasn't stopped sneezing since we got here. I plugged in my earbuds to my phone and started on the living room. I dusted the shelves, table, and TV, stopping once to open the window when the dust got too much. Once that was done, I started vacuuming the floors and the couches. Next, I took down the curtains and beat them outside to get rid of all the dust that clung to them. I brought them inside and started working on the bathrooms. I then dusted and vacuumed the halls. Finally, I cleaned up all the rooms except Rusha's. Satisfied with the interior, I went to work on the outside. The lawn, thankfully, was mowed, but the dead, dried-up grass and endless amount of leaves surrounding the forest needed to be raked up and dealt with. Everything was going in the fire pit to be burned later. Hopefully in a big bonfire with s'mores being made. By the time I was done cleaning up the big yard, and though it was still early in the day, it was getting pretty dark. I stood outside for a while as I watched the sunlight set behind the trees in gold and yellow as if the trees were on fire. As a child, before England found me, the fall was a sign of harsh weather and hard times when food would become scarce. Fall was a time to store up as much food as possible before the first frost killed everything. When I was a child, fall was a sign of death. It wouldn't be until many, many years after England found me that I would be able to appreciate its beauty. Same thing goes for the harsher season that followed it. I stood outside until the sun had fully set. I walked inside to smell the cooking of food. I was too tired to talk to him, so I instead went up to my bathroom to take a shower. As I let the water heat up, I undid my bandages. I carefully inspected each cut to make sure that an infection hadn't set in any of them. Once the check was complete, I stepped into the warm spray. I hummed in contentment as the warm spray relaxed my tense muscles. Taking a hot shower after a long day of housekeep always felt nice and refreshing. I stood under the spray for a long time. I'm not sure how long, but I was forced out by a knock on the bathroom door. I gave a surprised shout and nearly slipped. "Russia, what are you doing in my room?" I demanded. "I have been calling your name for half an hour. I came to see if you were dead," he replied through the door. "I'm fine, get out," I shouted. I was internally panicking. If he stepped in, he'll see the bandages I left on the counter. I knew I should have thrown them away earlier, but I didn't think he would come into my room. "I am leaving. Dinner is done and waiting for you," he said gruffly. "Yeah, fine, whatever. Just get out of my room," I yelled, trying to sound mad instead of panicked. I waited until I heard my door close before getting out of the shower. I quickly dried off, taking care to be gentle with my cuts. I grumbled angrily to myself about boundaries as I got dressed. I threw out the old bandages and put on fresh ones. Once dressed, I stomped down the stairs and into the kitchen. I stood in front of Russia with my arms crossed angrily. He looked up at me with an eyebrow raised, but didn't say anything. "So, I think we need to set down some boundaries and ground rules. Walking into my room uninvited was uncool, dude," I snapped at him as I took a seat across from him. "So, my first rule is stay out of my room. Respect that, and I will stay out of yours as well." "Fine. Rules will make things run smoother here. My rule is no loud noises past 11. That is too late to be doing anything noisy," he said. "Okay, normally I try to keep the noise level down to a minimum between the hours of 10 p.m. and 10 a.m. Hold on a second," I told him as I ran to my room and came back down with a dry erase board. I threw a line down in the middle and across the top. I put an A and an R. "We'll use this to keep track of all the rules. That way, neither of us can say I forgot," I told him as I wrote down the first two rules. "Fine. My second rule is stay out of my stuff. If I have something down here, do not mess with it. Da?" he said as I wrote it down. "Okay, cool. My second rule is that Hero stays inside unless you put her on a harness. She loves to explore and gets lost very easily. I don't want to have to spend all day looking for her again," I said. "Do not touch my scarf. I doubt that you will see it off me, but if you do, don't touch it," he said threateningly. "Fine. My final rule is that if you want to start a fire, you must bring a hose all the way to the pit. We are in the middle of a forest, and I don't want to burn it down." I looked up at him. He nodded his head in understanding. I looked at the board to see it only half filled. I erased half of the line and drew another line horizontally. "Okay, some ground rules. I think whoever cooks does not have to do the dishes." "You'll have a dishwasher," he pointed out. "They still need to be put in, started up, and put away. Plus, some need a good rinse before we put them in. And the cast iron never gets put in the washer," I told him. "Besides, that rule is mostly to help keep the peace." "All right. Any more rules?" he asked. "Yes. The 5 basic rules that I have followed all my life, I told him, as I started writing them down. Which are? If it's dirty, clean it. If it's on the floor, pick it up. If it's broken, fix it. If it's hungry, feed it. If it's sad, love it. I said distantly as I remembered how I learned these rules. I snapped out of my thoughts real quick, though. The rules cover all grounds and are very easy to understand. Is there anything you would like to add, Russia? Niet, these will work, he said. I nodded my head, also satisfied with the rules. I put the board on the refrigerator so we can both see them whenever we need to. I put the marker into the junk drawer and left the kitchen. I headed off to my room, barely realizing that I had skipped dinner. I wasn't hungry, so I got ready for bed instead. I unplugged my laptop, laid in bed with it, and pulled my current favorite show up and started binge watching it. After a while, I grew tired and put the electronic device down. I lay in the dark, thinking about things, mostly about the fight that led to us being banished to this house for a month. Maybe I overreacted when he called me a whore, but I hated the word. I hated the memories it brought up. I hated how everyone calls me one, especially because they all know that I've never been with anyone. But they all still call me a filthy whore. I clenched my eyes shut as tears threatened to spill out. I may be a lot of things, but a whore ain't one of them. They still call me one every chance they get, just like at the last meeting. You eat like a pig, it's so gross. I don't know how you haven't died from a heart attack with all those burgers you eat. All your ideas are so stupid. I don't know why you even bother to show up. Watch out, fat ass is coming through. Make sure he doesn't crush you. Idiot, just shut up. It shouldn't be possible for anyone to be as stupid and fat as you are. I wiped my eyes as tears started to spill when more memories of the others' bullying came up. I turned on my stomach so I could bury my head in my pillow. Soft sobs shook my body as I cried harder and harder, but never loud enough so that Russia could hear me. My dear sweet cat noticed my tears and came to cuddle me. I grabbed onto her tightly, nuzzling my face into her soft, fluffy fur. She tried to comfort me by licking my face. She does this most nights. It was well into the night when I finally cried myself to sleep. And that's the end of this chapter. Again, there's a reason I read all the warnings before each chapter. There is no list of warnings for each chapter, so I'm just kind of like, yeah, trigger warnings may apply. Anyway, hopefully I'll see you tomorrow.